Coronation Street may be quietly hinting at a possible reunion between Steve and Tracy McDonald in this week's episodes, especially after news broke that Claire Sweeney will be leaving the ITV drama after a 3-year stint. Steve and Tracy were once husband and wife, but their marriage fell apart when he discovered she had been involved in an affair with his former football idol turned handyman, Tommy Orpington. The pair initially relocated to Spain together, yet Tracy struggled with being away from her family and eventually returned to Weatherfield. She now resides with her ex under the same roof as Ken Barlow. In recent scenes, Steve's current partner, Cassie Plumber, dressed up with a secret intention of proposing to him. However, her plans were derailed when Steve received devastating news that his father, Jim, had died. During Tuesday's episode, Tracy informed Steve about Cassie's proposal scheme, clearing up his confusion over Cassie's odd behavior. Although brief, the exchange marked an unusual act of consideration from Tracy toward her former husband. Was it simply Tracy coming to terms with Steve's romance with Cassie despite their long-standing tension? Could it have been compassion during his time of mourning? Or perhaps evidence that lingering feelings remain? That final possibility might connect directly to Cassie's confirmed departure later this summer, as Sweeney has secured the part of Miss Hannigan in the UK and Ireland touring production of Annie. Speaking previously, the actress reflected on her career, sharing that joining Corrie at 52 was an unexpected yet wonderful milestone. She explained that earlier in life, she would always focus on the next opportunity, but now she is truly embracing the experience and appreciating the present moment. In Coronation Street next week, Todd Grimshaw finds himself pushed closer than ever to breaking point as Theo Silverton's birthday sparks fresh turmoil in their already fragile relationship. When the day fails to live up to Theo's expectations, he lashes out and humiliates Todd in public, triggering yet another explosive confrontation. As tensions escalate, viewers are left wondering whether Theo's controlling behavior will finally be exposed. On Monday, Todd and Summer Spellman go out of their way to celebrate Theo's big day. However, Theo makes little effort to hide his disappointment while opening his gifts. Later at the bistro, he invites Gary Wendendez and Maria Connor to join the birthday lunch while Todd is delayed at work. When Todd eventually arrives, an angry Theo hands him the bill, forcing Todd to admit he can't afford to pay it. A moment that leaves him embarrassed. Back at the flat, the humiliation continues. Theo accuses Todd of ruining his birthday and demands wine. And when Todd tries to calm things down, the argument spirals into violence, ending with smashed crockery. The shocking outburst leaves Todd shaken, yet he still attempts to shoulder the blame, desperate to avoid further confrontation. The next morning, Gary spots Theo sleeping in his van. Theo claims their row was about money problems, and Gary agrees to collect some clothes from the flat until things settle. But when Gary arrives, he witnesses Todd angrily throwing a blender across the room in frustration. Despite everything, Todd confesses he wants to make things right with Theo, prompting Gary to reach out to him. Gary begins to suspect there is more going on behind closed doors than Todd is willing to admit. Although Todd gains some space after their latest violent clash, he appears emotionally conflicted about Theo leaving. Theo, however, may have bigger intentions, and the question remains how long he will really stay away. His absence feels less like an ending and more like the calm before another storm. The following day, a nervous Todd keeps watching the door, anxious that Theo might return at any moment. He heads to the Rovers to drink with friends in an attempt to distract himself. But when Theo walks into the pub, Todd is overwhelmed and rushes out. Theo quickly follows, insisting they talk. Later, James Bailey helps a drunken Todd home, unaware that Theo is lurking nearby in the shadows. Could he be plotting something even more sinister? With Todd's confidence increasingly shattered and his isolation deepening, those closest to him may soon realize that this is no ordinary lover's tiff, but something far more troubling that could have lasting consequences on the street. In the latest episode of Coronation Street, viewers finally learn the fate of baby Harper following her delicate and lengthy operation. David and Shona Platt's young daughter was taken into theater to have a concerning lump removed from her neck, leaving her anxious parents facing an agonizing wait as they tried to remain strong for one another. While the couple stayed at the hospital, tensions were also simmering back at home. Nick Tilsley phoned Gail Chadwick and began listing every possible complication that could arise during such a complex procedure. His grim rundown of worst-case scenarios quickly irritated the rest of the family, who were simply trying to get through breakfast without added panic. 2 hours into what was expected to be a grueling 10-hour surgery, David and Shona, already snappy with each other due to stress and exhaustion, were startled when Nick, Bethany, Jod, Toya, and Sarah arrived at the hospital. The pair had clearly requested privacy, hoping to cope alone. David, overwhelmed and irritable, wanted everyone to leave immediately, with the sole exception of Toya, who had thoughtfully brought food. Shona, however, felt comforted by the extra presence, especially when Jody quietly revealed that it had been her idea for them all to show up and offer support. The atmosphere shifted dramatically later when 2 nurses suddenly rushed into Harper's room. Alarmed, David and Shona attempted to follow, but were stopped. The only explanation they were given was a vague mention of a bleed, offering little clarity and fueling their worst fears. The absence of detailed information pushed David over the edge. Consumed by anxiety, he lashed out at his family, insisting he didn't want their sympathy or company. In a burst of frustration, he told them they were only making the situation harder and pleaded with them to leave. Despite this, Jod later returned with snacks and gentle words of encouragement for David. The pair shared an emotional hug before she stepped away to give him space. Shortly afterwards, Jod struck up a conversation with another young mother waiting in the corridor. When the woman mistakenly assumed that she and David were partners, Jod chose not to correct her, instead appearing to enjoy the attention and the fleeting sense of belonging. As the hours dragged on and the emotional strain intensified, David and Shona clung to hope. Eventually, a doctor emerged from theater with long-awaited news. Thankfully, the procedure had been a success. Harper was described as completely fine, bringing overwhelming relief. David even managed to lighten the mood with a proud joke, calling his daughter proper hard. Overcome with gratitude, David and Shona embraced tightly, reaffirming their love for each other after such a harrowing ordeal. Yet, as they shared the heartfelt moment, Jod stood quietly watching through the window, her expression hinting that this story may not be over just yet. Coronation Street airs on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 o'clock p.m. on ITV1 and streams on ITVX.